All right, then. So that'll conclude our modern wrestling portion of this show. Now we get to go do fun stuff. So for the remainder of the show, we're going to do a retro review. We're going to do Monday Night Raw. Well, actually, this was not on Monday. It was on a Friday. So this is Friday, September 6th, 1996. And the previous calendar week, there was no show. So if everyone says, I don't know, if there's a thing that says there's been a Monday night show on every Monday night or every week, there wasn't, because the previous week to this, there was no show. And then on this week in particular, there was no show on Monday. It was on Friday. So there was a big gap between the last Raw that we saw and this one. But they did call this episode was called Championship Friday. So since it was on a Friday. And all these shows were moved around because of the U.S. Open tennis tournament. So the U.S. Open upended Monday Night Raw. So, all right, so usually we show what was happening on WCW on the Monday that we're doing because we have reviewed WCW during these months. This is not from the same day, but this is from earlier in the week. So here's some stuff. Mike Tenay debuted for WCW earlier in this week, and Nick Patrick also under scrutiny for possibly cheating and helping NWO. Sting, this was the day Sting stole a cop car and chased after the NWO.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then the Giant. So while Sting was away, not at the stadium, the Giant joined the NWO. Man, wow. Yeah, WCW is on fire at this point, and WWF is trying to keep up, trying their best to keep up. So, all right, let me go to our review sheet, and I'm just going to follow all the storylines here as it happened on the show. I'm not going to do it in order, but I'm going to go through the storylines one by one. So I have 9 storylines for 1 hour show. So it was basically just 1 hour, and they try to cram in as bunch of storylines as they could. When we do our reviews for the modern shows, for a 3-hour Raw or SmackDown, sometimes there's like 10 to 15 angles. So for one show here, in 1 hour, there was already almost 10 angles. So they were trying to do as much as they could with that 1 hour. But all right, so we had an IC title tournament. And this was something that started the week before because Ahmed Johnson has been hurt. And hold on, let me pull up the TV so I could pull up some pictures of what we're watching. So you guys did watch this and you reviewed it, so we don't have to watch the clips. I will show some clips of stuff that I think was really good. But here's Psycho Sid. So he defeats Triple H. So here's Triple H. And they had this was a first round Intercontinental title tournament match. Vlad, you called this a squash match or a job match, right?
It was yeah, I would say it basically was. I mean, it wasn't really. I mean, I don't think Triple H had a lot in this match. I would say so. I don't know what the word exactly is for a match like this. It wasn't exactly a job match, but it kind of was. Maybe there's another term.
This is the finisher. Here's Triple H up in the powerbomb position. Damn, look at him up in the air and getting slammed down and selling that. So, yep, this is.
The thing here is.
Sid,
sorry, Karen, go ahead.
Sorry, Sid Vicious with the win. So that's the first thing that happened. What were you going to say, Vlad?
Well, I was just going to say how over Sid was at the time is really understated because he was super over right around this time. Like,
here's a Sid fan. Well, there's 2 Sid fans. There's a Sid fan over here. So Sid rules the world.
Sid rules the world, man. Well, it's weird because I've always thought of him as a heel just based on his look and that crazy face, but he's getting over as a face at this time, which is kind of interesting.
He's charismatic. Back then, people were very into charisma. So, all right, so a good win for Sid. He advances in the tournament. So I'm going to jump around on this show. I'm not going to do it in order. But the other one was the other Intercontinental tournament match was Stone Cold against Mark Miro. So here's Sable was with Mark Miro, and here's Stone Cold. But I'm going to show you the finish. So interesting finish here. Hold on, let me take off the clock. We don't need that anymore. All right, so I'm going to do a slow motion here of what happened on the finish, and you can give your thoughts about it. So basically, I think Mark Miro was going to attack him, and Stone Cold, as he's a heel, as you mentioned last week, Vlad, he just pulls the ref into Mark Miro's attack. So here it is in slow motion. So Mark Miro's getting on the apron, and Stone Cold just grabs the ref and pulls him into Mark Miro, who, rams into the ref's stomach. So I'm going to show it again in slow motion. So as Mark Miro gets up on the apron, Stone Cold pulls the ref into Mark Miro's, shoulder attack, I guess. And then the ref calls for a DQ. That's it. And Stone Cold doesn't really listen to that. He's like, I'm the victor. I win. And then they continue fighting. So the fight continues afterwards. And then officials have to intervene and get them apart. So this was a DQ win for Stone Cold, although Stone Cold kind of didn't really care. Seemed like it was...
Was a DQ win for Miro?
Yeah,
for Miro. Yeah. Stone Cold is out of the tournament. So last week he was in a number one contenders battle royal for the WWF title, and then now he's out of the Intercontinental title tournament too. So, all right, reviews. So you guys already watched this show and you reviewed it. So here are your reviews. So I gave the Intercontinental title tournament stuff a thumbs up. Vlad gave it a half thumbs up, and Robert gave it a half thumbs up. So Robert kind of liked it. If anyone's unfamiliar with our rating system, I have a, hold on, let me show it right here. Here's the Malapert Smark rating system for 2025. This is how we review angles and storylines, if we like them or not. So, Robert, you kind of like this, not too much. So, Do you have any thoughts just on the Intercontinental title tournament stuff before I move on to the other storylines?
Sure. Well, there wasn't anything spectacular for either one of the matches. They were just okay. So that's why I gave it a half thumbs up. But I do have a comment that's slightly off topic, because during the Stone Cold match, the commentators did mention Stone Cold earlier in the year winning King of the Ring earlier that year. Okay. Why am I bringing that up is because I've watched a lot of documentaries about the Attitude Era made by WWE, and it's the way they present it. It's kind of like, I would call it revisionist history, because in that pay-per-view, that's when Stone Cold had that famous promo that said, Austin 316 says, "I just whooped your ass." And then, if you watch these documentaries made by WWE about the Attitude Era, the way they present it, it's almost as if Stone Cold skyrocketed after that and became the top star, like almost overnight. That's the way they present it, but that's far from the truth. Because I remember when watching these documentaries, I'm like, I don't remember it happening that way. His rise was much, much slower. He didn't really become the top guy until he started feuding with Vince McMahon. So that was just something I wanted to point out, because I heard the commentators mention him winning King of the Ring earlier that year, and you can tell if you're listening to the fan reaction during his entrance and his match, he wasn't that over. not at that time. They weren't making that much noise for him. But yeah, that's just a side note. But the Intercontinental matches they were okay. Nothing spectacular.
Okay, Vlad also said the same thing. Vlad actually has a comment here. I think he left a comment on the reviews. Let's see what he said. One was a job match and the other ended a DQ. It was just okay. Sid was super over at this time. Okay, so there you go. All right, but there was one thing, unless you want to add something to that, Vlad, and then I'll jump to the Mr. Perfect and Triple H stuff after that.
Yeah, I mean, what Robert just said about the Stone Cold thing was perfect. That was great. I absolutely agree. It was a long haul before he actually really got over. Also, the DQ was kind of weird. I think they could have done it a different way. If they were going to just have Mark Miro move on, I would have had them brawling on the outside, and I don't know. I would have done something else beside this. It didn't really make sense for him to just push the referee like that. They were having a competitive match. He wasn't in any danger of losing at that time. So kind of an odd time for a DQ, but all right.